Hello everyone, it's Friday night and it is Weekender time once again. And on this week's show, we take a look at everything 18th century from a fantastic indie in respect of the Day of Unchecked Colonial Aggression, or the 4th of July, if you happen to celebrate it that way. We're also going to be taking a look at all the Spring Clean Challenge winners and some honourable mentions as well. And we have a couple of Kickstarters to keep you entertained. On top of all of that, one lucky subscriber will be in with a chance to win this magnificent game, The Pirates of Skydock, based in the Starfinder universe from Gale Force 9. If you want to take this home, then you need to pop a comment below, and if you can do all the sherry stuff as well. Otherwise, sit back and relax, because your weekend starts here. Hello everybody and welcome to the Weekender. I'm joined by Justin, John and Ben.
Antic Wave.
With a little bit of a different Weekender for you this week. We will be taking a look at the Spring Clean Challenge winners in a little while, along with some of the other people who caught our eyes. Honourable mentions. My God, there was fierce competition this year.
Oh God, yes.
Stiff, like a stiff thing. Stiff like a drink. So we have that to look forward to. We have a couple of Kickstarters that we'll have a nosy at the end of the show, like normal. And of course, we will be kicking things off with the most important part in just a moment. But before we get into that, we've had two interesting interviews this week.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Diddly.
So on Wednesday, if you haven't already seen it, myself and John got a chance to chat with Wayne, Team Yankee writer extraordinary from New Zealand, who had to hang around very, very late in the day.
Yeah, that was some fun time zone shenanigans.
It was very good, but it did mean we got about an hour to have a chat with him about what people can expect from the Nordic Forces book.
Oh, yeah.
Which I know John has been enjoying.
Yeah, enthusiastic about, to say the least.
S-Tank.
Both him and Shay have been prowling through it going, well, this is filth. How many of these filthy things can I fit in an army? Oh, quite a lot.
And you said anti-tank what?
Who would have thought Norwegians were so cheap? So yeah, if you haven't seen that, if you fancy a bit of the old World War III, that was an exclusive look. And probably still is, because I think the embargo is still up today on Friday. If you're watching this Friday night, I think the rest of the world are only allowed to start talking about it now.
So we got special treatments.
We got special treatment. It's all based on height, and there's nobody else with a video camera taller than me to do it. So we win. So that's good. If you haven't seen that, have a look at that. And then we had another spanking one with Ben and myself. Got a chance to chat with John Stallard and Robin Jews about their Shaggy Dog Productions and their Talking Miniatures book, which is an interesting upcoming book. End of July, I think they're hoping to have it back from the printers to start shipping it out. But they've rounded up 17 old mates from the golden age of GW. So that sort of period from the.
Oh, is this going to be a Confessions of sort of run through?
No, that was a terrible series in the 70s. It was the period between Brian Ansell taking over the company and the company being floated. That where GW became kind of what
less fun
today. No. This was Pinnacle Games Workshop.
This is when they still messed around in the background.
this is where people still got together and played games and enjoyed themselves and stuff. Or the very early days when Rick Priestley was still making molds and casting models, because that's where he started and sort of segued into doing demonstrations and eventually writing rules in his spare time. So yeah, it was a really fun interview, and we got a chance to look at a couple of sections from the book in advance.
Some fun stories even in that interview as well, which is really good. So
yeah. I'm looking forward to my copy, which I'd already ordered anyway. So
Jerry just orders all the things all the time, all the money, none of the food.
I don't need food. but yeah, so there's some interesting stuff if you haven't heard about it. If you've any interest in that period, the mid 80s to mid 90s, the sort of the creation of it all, you can get a kind of behind the curtain look and see what Oz's great head actually is.
Yeah.
So
right around the time myself and John landed on planet.
He's so young, so young. In other news, Ben, I don't know if you've seen. I wouldn't say it was a criticism. I pointed out a flaw. There was an error in one of their
I did see
things.
Yes. Yeah.
So they were going. This was White Dwarf 187, and I held up my White Dwarf 183. I went, no, it wasn't. It was this one. I was like, but it's already been sent to the printers. But it's in the second volume. So I got an email back from Robin going, we fixed it. We got it before they start to print. So it's like, oh, that's nice.
Hey, Jerry see it today.
Well done, me. It's one less issue for people on the internet to complain about. So we'll just have to wait and see what there is to complain about. Yeah. I'm sure I'll find something else.
Not all heroes wear capes.
Never wear a cape. Get trapped indoors. You get shot like Mothman. I assumed you were referencing The Watchmen, where Mothman got his cape stuck in the door and shot.
Yeah, that or The Incredibles.
Oh, yeah. No. I'll stick with The Watchmen. It's more on my Strasser. Right. Enough of that. It's time to get things kicked off with the Indie of the Week. And this week, in celebration of either the American War of Independence, the Revolutionary War, or the Day of Unchecked Colonial Aggression, depending on who you are and where you're from.
Oh, National Theatre Day?
I thought we would have a look at Galloping Major, because they have some interesting bits and pieces from that neck of the woods.
Ooh.
So, I will very briefly touch on a second company before we get into Galloping Major. So, they are the UK stockist for King's Mountain Miniatures. The website doesn't show the range at the moment. Presumably that is because they're about to be recast, and so most of them are out of stock. So I have open here the King Mountain miniature range. The way they break their stuff down is they have all these are single figures, obviously right off the bat. They are American War of Independence stuff. You can buy box sets together, where it's like 10 or 12 marching or whatever it happens to be, but the if we look at the Continentals, the main sort of selling point for King is they have somewhere in the region of 250 alternative heads.
Wow. Okay.
So if you want to take that miniature that's currently a Highlander because it's wearing a Scots bonnet, and then give it a mitred hat to make it into a grenadier, or give it a whatever to make it into a whatever, they have a substantial amount of additional heads with different
that's neat.
forms of head capery on there.
So I can make it into a Mel Gibson?
Yeah, sure, if you want. That probably is Mel Gibson there. Unfortunately, he's not close enough for me to smell his breath, so I can't be entirely certain. But, it probably is. Anyway, as you can see, the King Mountain range is substantial. When you get into it. So you have your irregulars, your militia, your Continental Army regulars as well. There's everybody's favourite to see, somebody falling over dying.
I've been shot.
I look at him and I think he's found a shilling. Oh, it's funny.
Maybe he found a shilling and then got shot. Yeah.
No, that's my shilling.
It was a cunning trap. Yeah.
Shot in the back. That's what you get for taking the King's shilling. So anyway, so King's Mountain Miniatures, they have the Continentals, they have a substantial amount of Dragoons, Highlanders and others. Oh. So you can do your dismounted Dragoony type riflemen.
Very cool.
And like I say, they have a whole slew of heads. If I just go to the miniatures heads, animal fur hats, fur style hats, bandanas, bear heads with bandages, floppy hats, so on and so forth. Now, while some of these are very distinctly this early to mid 1700 sort of period, well, I suppose up to 1776, it does mean that you can use them for bits and pieces like piracy type of things. So the Golden Age of piracy is obviously early 1700s. So you can go nuts with that. It means then you can use bits and pieces like these guys with the anchors to make your say, your British Marines with mitred hats by just using regular British militia or military on board your ship. So, don't know who had the anchor. Oh, no. Anyway, I digress. That's Kings. We're not looking at Kings, but Kings exists. It's there. We might look at it in the future. I don't know. It's, you kind of seen what it is. It's a range of American War of Independence stuff. Go nuts. Right. So Galloping Major then in the UK, they have a couple of different ranges of their own then, which are, I believe, sculpted by the owner as well, Lance. So we're going to start with the 18th century, because I've spent a lot of time looking at 18th century piratey types and English troops of late for reasons.
Swashbucklers. Oh,
buckle that, swashes.
They do boats?
I don't believe they do boats, no.
Oh, I saw a section that said boats. I was promised boats. I'm disappointed.
Are you sure it didn't say book?
Yeah, it did.
Maybe.
It said books.
Dyslexia. My old friend. Hello, we meet again.
And if it's any help, there's no books in it currently, because I have it earlier. Because
so there's no winning.
Yeah, it's one of these ones where, if I clicked on that in some clever fashion that darkened it all. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, occasionally there will be things like Osprey books and, sort of bits and pieces like that for specific periods that, he's picked up and then drops into that section. But as you can see, the little Anglo-American civilian defenders are quite nice, especially if you just come ripping off a ship with a bunch of pirate friends and want to sack a village. Because why would you not?
You didn't need a bunch of NPCs to shoot. Yeah, that's very true.
Well, I mean, if you roll off the ship into a town that's been settled by ex-soldiers, you hear the words volley fire, run.
This is a really nice set of figures. Where's the ambiguate button? There we go.
Oh, those are great.
My particular favorite is there's a priesty type kicking around in here somewhere.
Oh, minister?
You can just see him kicking off.
Ah, there he is.
Spouting sermons as he shoots you.
It's time to meet my God. Bam. And then
the tavern keeper with
the blunderbuss.
Yeah.
I mean, crowd control.
It's the way to do it.
Get out of my tavern.
So really nice. They're 25 mil. I have seen them stacked up beside Perry's and stuff. So even though they're sort of an older sculpted range, they aren't dissimilar in size to a lot of the modern stuff, so they won't look hugely out of place. I think it's that inevitable scale creep that we all know and love. I think a long time ago, people should have been hunted down whenever they started measuring things instead of using scale and just going millimeters. That's not scale, mate. That's a measurement. You need to stop doing that. And then that way we wouldn't have these problems today. I'm just saying.
I really like the look of the boarding party. That looks really cool.
We'll get there.
So that's a collection of all the sets together. So you can buy yourself a full crew of troops, which is awesome. I like that.
Obviously, it would have been great if we'd had young Lloyd here, just so he could see the tiny pictures.
Just see him twitching in a corner going...
the two biggest ones, he gets a Lloyd shot out of it. So
there we go.
He needs to stop complaining about life.
Yeah.
Just
helping to a degree. Yeah.
Oh, is this some kind of shopkeeper?
No, these are sailor types. So he may be some sort of barber surgeon. The guns
I can make your wounds better by shooting your leg off.
There's nothing can be done about this.
We need to amputate, and I've lost my saw. It's all right. Just put the leg in front of the cannon.
A shave and a bullet extraction for free.
Yeah. It's the Emperor's grace. Bam, into the side of the head. But yeah, really nice set of piratey types and sailors. Let's face it, the line was blurred quite a bit. It all comes down to whether or not they've got that letter of marque.
That's true. Yeah.
That, and it really depends on who you were coming from and who you were raiding. Because even if you didn't have the letter of marque, if you were English raiding the French, you could just say, "Oh no, privateers, bye-bye."
Shocking types.
The Queen said I could do this. Well, the King said I could do this. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Those are really nice. I like those. They've got just enough detail. They've just got just enough detail on them to make them like fun to paint before them just becoming annoying, which is a fine line with miniatures nowadays.
So. They're not overly fussy.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I love the levels of individuality you're getting in amongst all this, because again, in Pirate Crews, you're not going to have a lot of generic, like I am just pirate number 4 in the background. This is pirate number 3, but he's wearing a different colored shirt.
Yeah.
I really like him just wandering around. Enjoying
keeping an
life.
eye on everybody. Yeah.
Everything's good here. Nothing to see. Don't worry about it. I'm sure I won't be shot.
Yeah, all ship shape and Bristol fashion, sir. Don't worry.
Looks like he's about to marry off his daughter to some captain or lieutenant.
Or he's just watching his daughter being taken off by the pirates going, oh, thank God she's gone.
Really
Do you like the fact that they're on square bases as well?
I love the fact that they're on 20 mil square bases.
Yeah.
Like nature intended.
Appropriate basing is important to Jerry.
Somewhere Lloyd is prepping a set of pennies to use for these. So.
Hit pennies.
They've got a whole lot of things for Christmas, though.
Oh, anyway. Damn it. As soon as I said it, I knew it was coming.
You didn't know. You had no way of knowing. Anyway.
What was that dude? Was that guy carrying like a bombard or something? Or has he just got
it's a set of brass knuckles.
Brass knuckles, yeah.
Of course.
Someone's about to get upside the head.
That's how the quartermaster keeps you away from the grog. That is
100% how he does it, yes. Yeah. So leaving the sailory types behind, let's lose King as well. We have the French and Indian Wars, which obviously slips into the 7 Years' War quite nicely. So we'll start with this. We'll have a look at the British. These are really nice.
This seems to be coming. I mean, I know it was a couple of years ago as well, but this seems to be coming a new sort of, well, not new, but a returning era of warfare that people are going back to and having a look at again. I think, which is kind of nice.
It's one of those. I wouldn't say it's cyclical, but every now and again something will crop up, and all of a sudden people will go, "Oh, that's a great period. I really enjoy that." And then it's like films. You know the way you normally get like 2 massive blockbusters made by different companies at the same time about the same thing, and it just they're not copying each other. It just happens whatever way society was going. Both made 2 different writers think we need a volcano film at the same time. It's similar. Certain things trigger people, and then they go, "Oh, Outlander, whatever."
2 people are going to make asteroid films at the same time.
Yeah, and then they go, "Oh, well, I should really get in there and do a French Indian War sort of stuff." And this is why I was looking at them. To be brutally honest, I'm trying to find a really nice set of Indians for American Wild West, and I'm going. I don't know whether I want Plains Indians or Apaches or what have you. So I've just been trolling various companies looking at stuff that they've been doing. I really like these First Nation ones, the Canadian natives. There's some really nice bits and pieces in here. And if anybody watches Atten Shea on YouTube, who does a lot of historical stuff, a lot of American Civil War in particular, but he met up with a couple of First Native reenactors one day up in the middle of nowhere, and they went through what their dress was and how it related to them. So it was a really comprehensive guide where 2 guys were literally going, "Here's what I'm wearing, here's what the colors are, here's what this was made out of," and it's a really good source of information for painting, specifically the First Nations Canadian type stuff. So yes, everybody should go and have a look at Atten Shea. Just saying.
I think that's one of the nice things about this period and why people are so drawn to it as well, is that it's got kind of that element of the regimented warfare, because you have all your Brits or your French or whatever in their uniforms. But then you've also got all the chaps that have been there for donkey's years and have, decided these uniforms are awful. I'm just going to wear what everybody else is wearing and start wearing furs and all sorts of different things. And then you get to mix in all of the First Nation troops as well. So you get to have a lot of fun with the painting and the modeling side of it, and also the gaming, because it can be done on a large scale and a small scale and everything in between as well, which is nice. So, yeah.
I mean, there's a great TV show. Now, the period is later than this. It's during the War of Independence. It's on Amazon, called Turn.
Oh, okay.
A very, very good show, because it actually follows a civilian who is basically a part of the spy network that was living in British occupied territory.
Oh, right.
And basically figuring out how to pass secret messages back and forth between the lines. And some of the actual uniforms and stuff in there like the Queen's Rangers and stuff, really, really great to see on camera, and a really great resource if you're trying to learn to paint around that era.
Oh, that's cool. Something to keep an eye on then.
Yeah, I was unaware of its work. I hadn't heard of anything even creeping up. We'll not spend a huge amount of time going through everything in here, but I'll throw up some of the others. There's some of
the civilian sets are always great for these kind of things as well. Though, so.
You recognize some of those from the other one anyway. So I think it's the same group together. That might be a bigger image if memory serves. No,
memory did not serve.
Further away.
Well, you just have to work on the principle that my memory is failing me. I'm the Mike Staclakis of this little group. What can I say? Yeah.
There is some gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. And I mean, there's so much to look at, even in each of the different factions for the different regiments that would have been fighting around this time.
And the good news is, at no point will the taxes be pushed so high because of other wars that these guys will ever break away from the Great British Empire. So that's good. There's nothing to worry about there. Arm them and train them well, my friends.
I blame the French.
Pretty much the war beggared them, yeah.
Wasn't that the whole thing? Was that Britain was basically hurting for money, taxing America way too hard because this war had just like picked the pockets clean?
Very much so. And not just them, but also the Swedes. I see you, Ben. I see what you're doing. And then, obviously, regular British line infantry. Charge bayonets. Get ready for...
Walk forward very slowly and then prick them with your bayonets.
Pokey.
Don't worry if the cannons are coming in. Just keep going, lads.
I mean, honestly, how do you hold your nerve having to line up in block formation and wait for someone to actually lift the rifle? Ready, aim. Hell with this, I'm out.
It's really, really simple. The beatings during training.
Okay.
And if you turned in the middle of a battle, you're going to be shot.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it. If you turn away, you're definitely dead. If you keep walking, you might be dead.
I remember I can't remember who it was. I think it was a Napoleonic reenactor. He was talking about this sort of, the idea of like block formations and, getting your rifles and firing and just standing still. And he said, yes, there's the chance that you could get hit, but in most cases, the rifles were so shit. That they probably weren't going to hit you. So by the time you'd moved forward far enough to then charge, you were probably okay. So you just had to kind of like wince.
There was a bit where Wolfe, the British general, may have been at Quebec, he stopped his men when they were marching forward, walked to the front of the line, and then in French said, shoot first, gentlemen of French, or gentlemen of France, and sort of doffed his hat in a after you kind of gesture, because he knew he was so far out of range that they would just waste it and they'd be in and shot in the face before they got their muskets reloaded. So
cheeky.
Yeah.
I don't think the French took it, but to be fair, didn't really help them anyway. So.
I do want to do a little bit of looking into this now just to see how inaccurate old school muskets and stuff were.
They're horrible.
It's very much broadside of the barn type of thing.
Well, even moving into sort of like the Wild West era and stuff, the whole sort of couldn't hit a barn door. That comes from the fact that a revolver was so bad. Because you could fire it at a barn door and it would probably miss and hit the cow next door.
Well,
so
even today, being a marksman with a pistol is no easy feat.
Yeah.
So anyway, our little British.
Although I still always enjoyed it, the British and any of the colonial empires that went over into to fight against the First Nations and stuff, were always like, oh, these chaps just won't line up and fight us. They keep popping out of the woods and attacking and then vanishing. What's this? This isn't real warfare. And I was like, good on you.
That's not how you fight a war, man. You're just the worst.
March forward towards the enemy and get shot.
Also, French regulars are up as pre-orders. So they're coming. But they do have more First Nation bits and pieces in here. So they've got the Hurons. Yeah. Again, see. I'm sure I can use some of them. I've not been looking at the blood and plunder rules for natives, by the way. I haven't been doing
that. Not at all.
Of course not.
But the key is lots of them.
Yeah.
Yes. Many.
Also, I really like the idea that the war paint on them make them really interesting from a painting point of view. Because you've got all of the various clothes and designs and animal skins and all the rest, and then you have very distinctive styles of war paint.
Yeah. And I know that stuff has existed in the past as well, but there's been a lot of companies who've done a lot of really nice skin tone paints as well now, and sets that are allowing people to paint more accurately, which is quite nice too. So you've got lots of more options on the hobby side of things for painting too, which is nice. So.
The Army Painter skin tone set is ridiculous. For anybody painting any skin tone, that set of 9 or 12 or whatever it is, paints and washes is it's like idiot proof.
Tiny.
You just fire on the base coat, then and it has a really satin, almost gloss finish to it.
Oh, nice.
And then the wash, then over the top of that, mats that down and also helps control where it pulls. And then there's like a toner set, like a pigment toner that you can mix into each of the sort of
to get it just
colors.
Right, kind of thing.
And you can go to as many steps as you want. So if you want to do something very, high quality, lots of shading and blending, you can do that with the Army Painter one. Or if you just want to stick the base coat down, throw a wash over it and walk away, it still looks more than good enough, especially for big regiments.
Very cool. Yeah.
But yeah, so we have those. We have some of the Hurons again. See, things like that. Like chin shoulders type of doohickey. Look far away. Coming at you out of the skyline.
Very nice. Very cool indeed. Yeah.
So, leaving the French and Indian Wars behind, the final range is the Wild West. It's not a massive range.
Why do I feel like this is also one of the reasons why you came here, Jerry?
I have no idea. I don't know why you keep talking at me.
It's a little bit a little bit ha.
It's really old. There's a small amount of gunfighter types. So you've got your hired guns. We've got a couple of lawmen as well. But really, the majority of the Old West types are sort of 7th Cav.
Right.
Well, not a bit Union soldiers,
A little bit wider.
Could be white. Could be any of the ERPs. There's so many of them.
Yeah.
Could be Ted ERP, the ERP that nobody really talks about.
Oh, those are great. I love those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I say, those are more or less.
Guy's got a bit of a Pinkerton vibe to him as well.
Yeah, well, because he's rocking the bowler hat.
Yeah.
Pinkertons who are still going to this day. Who knew?
Just hunting down people who have magic cards instead.
Magic cards, yeah. Wizards of the Coast sent the Pinkertons after somebody with a deck of magic cards that they shouldn't have had because it had been sent out by accident. And reviewed it on his YouTube channel, and then the Pinkertons got sent to their bowler hats with shotguns after them. So that's just how Hasbro rules these days. Anyway,
wow.
If I go into
corporate thuggery, you have to love it.
Boom, boom. I mean, obviously they could have just contacted and went, "That was an error. Can we have
Please send back?
We'll sort you out." But it's much easier to send somebody with a bowler hat, trench coat, and a shotgun, because I imagine that is on handlebar mustache. Every Pinkerton.
I'd love that if that's still there.
That's the uniform.
Yeah. By law, you can't be a Pinkerton without that. Otherwise, you're just a thug.
even the female operatives.
Yeah. It's great that you've got the cavalry in there as well. So you can run some kind of like forts on the frontier, get attacked and stuff. Yeah.
You could do something with Custer, maybe.
Go full plains war.
Maybe.
That poor fool. That poor blonde fool.
Oh, let's all sing Gary Owen now. They died with their boots on reference, which is another one for the kids. I like doing the kids' references.
Of course you do.
Because I know all the 20-year-olds in the audience are waiting for Errol Flynn films to be name checked. So, yes, get in. The Flinster. Yeah.
Those are great. I like those. Yeah.
Yeah, so cool.
Dismounted cavalry. And
Brilliant.
There's even a little set of Apaches as well. But only the 4, which isn't enough for me. I'm just saying, for Dead Man's Hand, I need about 8, maybe 12. No more than 16.
Enough to set up a bit of a raid, though. That's good. So,
yeah.
Well, enough for a crusade.
I will have to, very briefly, I need to nip back to this. Because I will just chuck this one in. just apropos of nothing at all, just in case you fancy a T-shirt to wear while you're playing your 17th century games, there's the nice "We'll rant and we'll roar like true British sailors," or a King George commands and we'll obey over the hills and far away style.
Very cool.
Which is also good for sharp, if you like sharp.
Yeah.
So just throw those in as well.
And they're in colours that aren't just black, which is always nice to see when it comes to
What's wrong with
geek
black?
clothing. There's nothing wrong with geek clothing. It's just that everyone wears black.
Wait, are you saying every black piece of clothing is geek clothing?
Now, yes. Yeah.
That's how it works. It's like conversions and kitbacks.
Yeah, John.
Right.
Honestly, that shirt I was this close to buying, but John beat me to it.
And you can't wear the same T-shirt.
Oh no,
Otherwise
that would
start
look.
to talk. I mean,
Oh no, twinsies? No, we're not doing twinsies, except in costume.
I'd disown you anyway.
Shocking stuff. Right. So there we have Galloping Major and theoretically King's Mountain Men as well.
Very nice.
Our indie of the week for this week. Hope that's whetted your appetite. We're going to take a quick swish, and when we come back, we'll be looking at the Spring Clean Challenge.
Did you win one of our prizes? Find out on our prize claim center over at OnTableTop.com. Here we list all our previous prizes and those who have won. If you see your username, fill out the form to claim your prize. All prizes must be claimed within 30 days.
Okay, folks, we are back and ready to take a look at the winners, the almost winners, and the highly honourable mentions from the Spring Clean Challenge. Yeah. It was a toughie this year.
It really was.
Really difficult. How many lists? How many lists did you go through?
It's best not to talk about the lists.
There was a big list, then a short list, then a short list, then a shortest list.
I think there was like, well, this is really good. We want to talk about this. Going, but we could talk about it in idea. And they're going, but it also would fit in tutorial. And it's really good. It's like, so.
Yeah. One of the things that's been a big level up this year is that a lot of people have put a lot of effort into explaining the processes of going through all of these different things.
So everybody went after best tutorial?
I mean, I don't even know if everybody was after best tutorial, but it made a lot of people highly rated for it. So your mileage may vary at home. If you think we've got something wrong, or somebody should have been in a different category, or should have been a winner, or why did that win over that, blah, 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 pop it below, go right ahead. The prizes have already been picked. The winners have already been notified. Won't make a blind bit of difference to me, son.
But as always,
that's our disclaimer.
Arguing on the internet solves all of life's problems.
That is true. That's why you should spend as much time doing it with strangers as you can. Right. So our first category then, Ben.
Yeah. So the first category that we're going to be looking at is for best skill. So the kind of way that this one's rated is it's the most skilled work. So it could be the skill in the painting, it could be the overall finish, it could just be the
execution of the idea.
Execution.
So this is our ooh-wee.
Yeah, this is the oh my god, this is pretty.
Could be that, could be. We're going to start with the honourable mentions first. So we're going to kick off with Collins, in fact. And this is an interesting one for a couple of reasons. We have two tangential parallel projects from Collins, which could have quite happily gone into a couple of different places. So this really could have been a tutorial one right off the bat. It's a big, majestic Walking Dead build where he went through not just the Mantic miniatures and the painting, but also then took things like the scenarios and 3D-ified them, because obviously Walking Dead is theoretically just a board game. What's that term you like, Ben? Ameritrash?
Amerithrash.
Amerithrash. Okay.
Yeah, I think
has
people
that been changed?
I think people got annoyed with Ameritrash.
Okay, right. Well, but it used to be that style where it was a board. It was theoretically a 2D board game.
Yeah.
But you could then go in afterwards and add bits and pieces to it. And obviously Collins has done this in spades with building the requisite scenario bits and pieces, and making the cornfields and adding the barn and stuff. Just replacing those little 2D tokens that you get with a whole lived-in world.
Wow.
And this in and of itself was absolutely spanking, because obviously Walking Dead is done now. Mantic have close the doors on that one. The game is there and complete.
It's still a dice game.
And for those who got it, there's still a dice game. But for those who got it, or can lay their hands on it, it's self-contained. So it will never have to expand beyond that, which means you can set up whatever way you want. So terrific amount of work went into this part of it. The nice thing about this and why it gets an honorable mention, and should have won, could have won, almost won, didn't win.
Oh, this wasn't a winner?
No, God, no, this is just honorable mention. He also did battle reports.
Yeah.
But he did them in a separate project. So you can have if you just want to look at the tutorial, how he did the painting and modeling, that was all there. If you just want to look at the battle reports, which are great, then these were all put in here in his Tales of the Walking Dead, where it breaks down the scenario. It breaks down what's happening. It gives you an intro. It shows you the setup. And then he used one of these comic filter to take pictures of his beautifully presented models and the like, but then actually push them a bit further and have them in that comic world instead, so that you don't have just pictures of the miniatures. They look like they're from the comic book, and it means you have this really distinctive, beautiful setup, and there are so many of them.
This is the thing that just sold it, is just the amount of effort put into these was so cool.
I mean, the framing and the scening he's done in this comic style as well, it really does feel like it has that similar pacing to what you would have seen in the comic or the show.
Yeah.
But like I say, just an honorable mention.
Oh, buddy,
it's better.
Buddy, feels bad for you.
C'est la vie. Next of our honorables for skill is LSR. And this is, I suppose, most timely.
Very much so.
Because they've just made an announcement that they're bringing back Epic, although in a
Legions
different size.
Imperialis.
Yeah, so it's in 30k for some reason.
Yeah. However,
easier to make.
Months ago, LSR had already started doing his Horus Heresy Epic game. So these are 3D printed bits and pieces. So he's obviously had a lot of time playing around with the 3D printer, which I know he's started to get more and more exploratory with. So he's put together all his tiny fighting marines. You can see there,
Iron Warriors, Mother of God,
a whole chunk.
Lots of hazard stripes.
Holy hell, the amount of dreadnoughts he has.
Loads of contemptors, loads of tanks, loads of tactical marines, loads of cataphracti terminators. There's even a small Perturabo and all sorts of things in there as well.
What I love about this straight off the bat is he didn't get it far wrong from what was announced.
Pretty much, yeah.
There.
Even down to putting things on the wrong size bases as well.
Yeah. wrong shape bases too, because I'm with you on this, Jerry. This should be square base.
Lovely little square base, and put a flag at the back so you know who's running towards you. It's like the old days. But just, the skill in and of itself of printing.
Yeah, the skill in the printing, the skill in the painting.
Is right up there.
And then the skill of the amount of stuff that he has done.
Yeah.
And later on, you do get a nice picture where we have a rhino beside a teeny tiny rhino. So you can see he's obviously picked a specific size for us. Look at the basilisks. I had a friend
all your
made one of
predators.
the enclosed basilisks years ago, before GW or Forge World made one.
Yeah.
And it looked absolutely terrific. All plastic card and bits, like you had to do in the old days.
All looking fantastic. And I love that he's got the old Mark 1 pattern of the predators in there as well.
Mm.
But yeah, again,
hunted out. He's even done terrain as well.
The terrain, there's two types of terrain. This is my favorite part of this. So there's classic, I'm going to play epic. I've got a cardboard box and I'm going to cut ruined walls into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also, I've got a 3D printer. I'm going to print really detailed bunkers and bits and pieces as well for terrain. And just the juxtaposition of those two things just amuses me to the core of my being.
There we go.
It's like I've done these, but I've also done these.
Scratch
these
built
took time.
And 3D printed.
These took cereal boxes. Terrific work from LSR. Again, alas,
I love that 3D printed terrain.
Not a winner either, just an honourable mention.
How good is the best?
Wow.
That's what I'm left asking. I'm sitting scratching my head going, these are amazing. They could have easily won. What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens. We have to be harsh.
Uh-huh.
I was very harsh. Some people got trimmed out of the shortlist because I realised that even though they tagged stuff as Spring Clean Challenge and it was great, they hadn't done it during the Spring Clean Challenge window. Either they'd finished in February and Spring Clean didn't kick off to March, or they'd just rammed a load of stuff in June and stuff like that. And you're going,
premature projectification.
That's not the Spring Clean Challenge, is it?
Yeah.
So this one from Zebra is our runner-up.
Yes.
Zebra Outrider. This I thought was the very epitome of the Spring Clean Challenge.
Very much so.
Because he literally had to clean his miniatures.
Yeah. This definitively does the spring cleaning thing. There were miniatures in regiment trays covered in dust that he had to clean off and then gave them an entirely new coat of paint. I mean, look at that.
Oh.
So
that's been languishing for a fair bit of time.
That looks like your bold action army, Justin.
Oh, you mean the one I put in the bin?
Yeah.
Classic.
Oh, yeah, God.
So yeah, so things came off the shelf.
Uh-huh.
They were cleaned, then paint was touched up, fixed up, rebased. Then the base trays themselves were all labeled as well. So named, numbered, and unit size. And it just overall, then we ended up with a really, I mean, just the very epitome of Spring Clean Challenge, of fixing something up that's been languishing, or adding to it in the case of the Magma Dragon.
In my opinion, there is a certain skill to going through the motions of doing the cleaning, because so many people would just be like, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
That
whereas
Magma
Zebra
Dragon
has
is
definitely
lovely.
gone into, it's one of the Forge
don't even
World
know
ones.
if Forge World still make the Magma Dragon.
They don't know. No.
But you can see.
Oh,
there.
so even it had been sitting languishing.
Yeah.
Going, build me.
So obviously, Dogs of War, best army for fantasy that they'd ever done, and managed to survive for a whole single edition.
Is that someone on a flying carpet?
It is, yeah. In the middle of Al Mukhtar's Desert Dogs, if memory serves, and it does, because they're light cavalry, and they were great. Weren't the best light cavalry in the Dogs of War, but they were right up there, especially with Blind Dib and the Standard Bearer.
Yeah.
I think actually, have you put banners on those? I think I've got spare banners for some of these regiments still. I know you've renamed some of them, so it's Pugnio now instead.
The Pikemen of Pugno.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think just because it was very much the point of Spring Clean Challenge, and also the skill in actually bringing all this back to life from it just being a dust covered mess. It looked like Galadriel when Mount Doom exploded and everyone was covered in ash.
I mean, the only thing I would have liked to have seen extra in this project is what process you actually had to use to clean the miniatures.
I mean, that may even be in there somewhere.
It does say it's mostly just in there with a brush, because it's dry dust, so you're not too bad with a nice soft makeup styly brush. But it does go through what he's done, how he's touched them up, and then obviously labeling them off. Solomon the Saracen,
and with the old world, biting at the heels of 2023. Hopefully, won't be too long before these will be fun to drop into games once more. So,
I respect this project a lot.
Yeah, it's very cool.
It's a very nice runner-up. But our winner is a drum roll, please.
Yes,
thank you. So
editing drum rolls every time Jerry does
our winner was
I am not
chicken squawks and stuff. Was Elmir for his Dead or Alive Wild West Exodus posse. So this has been lying in a box since they came out 2 years ago, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And Elmir gone the other way. Just a photo gallery, nothing clever, no tutorials here. If you want to learn how to paint like Elmir, then just go and sit over his shoulder. Is probably the best way. But just the execution of the paint job was absolutely tremendous.
Yeah, I mean, again, much like with Zebra Outrider, who kind of epitomized the process of Spring Clean Challenge, I think Elmir kind of knocked the nail on the head when it came to this is the skill entry. I'm just going to paint these up really nicely and show you what I did.
Yeah.
Which is great. So and Elmir's always done absolutely amazing work.
Adding folds into like flat, what's essentially leather or cloth components, really great skill.
And Elmir's color choices are always really nice as well.
Oh yeah, he's pimping.
Yeah, going down different routes and just playing around with brighter colors than you might have expected for these to kind of make them pop as well is just really nice. And getting all the facial details right and effects and everything at the same time as well is just gorgeous. And
it's funny because whenever I look at Wild West Exodus, I always default to realistic but steampunk.
Yeah.
Whereas his color palettes are very much 80s cartoon.
I mean, purple pants
meets 50s West movies.
I mean, I was looking at those, and that looks a lot like Deadpool and Punisher.
Well,
actually, yeah.
I think you'll find there's a reason for that. Pop culture, isn't that what they call it?
Mm-hmm.
But just some absolutely terrific work from Elmir throughout the painting, whether it's the non-metallics or the stubble added to Frank, that sort of thing. It's all there, and it's gorgeous.
Even the smoke and the fire from the jetpack on this one.
Yeah, it's really good.
Because that bottom smoke actually looks like it's on fire, like it's got an internal glow to it.
Mm-hmm. And then all the little pinstriping on the trousers and everything.
Oh yeah,
and the edge work on the wings as well for the little bird, just gorgeous.
Yeah. So as you can see, he's done some spectacular work, and the range of figures as well is fairly diverse. So you've got different skin tones, different styles of arms and armament on them as well. It's just
you were asking who had the anchor. He has the anchor on.
Now, is that sculpted or is that a painted?
I think that's a sculpted thing on the back of the model. Yeah.
Still, it's badass.
Yeah, it's an amazing painting and kind of not, does what it says on the tin for skill.
Yeah. It's definitely, there could be some contention, but I think you guys have picked the right winner.
I mean, that was a hard category.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was a very hard category.
I mean, this has been hard. Every single category. It's like, did we pick this?
There's like another 60 or so entries for the Spring Clean Challenge that aren't even going to be looked at today. We may put a link into where you can just look through them all yourself.
Yeah, we'll put that down below.
And there were some where it was like, we should put this in. And I was like, we should put it in, but we can't physically fit it into the category or into the show anywhere. For one to go in, somebody else has to come out. So there were some outstandingly
killing your darlings.
Things. Yeah, just had to be harsh. But yeah, congratulations, Elmir and Zebra Outrider, for winning the skill. Get in touch. We'll sort you out with some money.
There's some vouchers up. There's vouchers up for grabs.
A money-like object.
Yeah. Use on the OnTableTop store.
Like money, but worse than money because it can only be used in one place.
But you get free toys.
Vouchers. So that is the way or paint.
I mean, I know this is my job, but we actually have very competitive prices.
So there's a hell of a selection of Green Stuff World stuff as well.
It's
always good. Anyway, I digress. Right, so that's skill. We're going to head into best tutorial now.
Yeah.
A category so jam-packed that Colin's tutorials weren't good enough for tutorial.
Yeah.
Go off and be an honourable mention in skill, Collins.
So best tutorial, to kind of break this one down, it's the people that have shown us in detail steps from start to finish. So it's people who have, I know we've already seen some of that already, but people who have put in a lot of effort into descriptions and
the process.
The process and breaking down everything in terms of painting or what might be model making or terrain and everything else in between. So
and we're going to be kicking it off with again our honourable mentions, and starting with Tommed.
Yeah.
Unless of course the final letter is silent there, in which case just Tom.
Or he prefers Tom D.
Who knows? But this was an interesting one. For Volsung.
Yes.
building a whole slew of terrain for that. Again, we're finished with one steampunk and we're coming right back to another steampunk universe. But doing a whole slew of terrain that would work to add detail and levels to the tabletop, which is very important in any sort of skirmish game. But the distinctive look of Volsung means that there's not many places you can go for it. So he got round it by building it in CAD and then 3D printing it.
So he's 3D printing the bits that Volsung don't do to add curves, secondary levels and stuff.
Yeah. He's designing and then 3D printing it. And I mean, that in and of itself is something to go, wowzer. Because while I'm aware that computers exist, the idea of sitting down with a big blank computer screen and then doing these things to make it do the stuff, that makes sense.
Press the boobity boo, Jerry.
Yeah, very much so. Press A to speak to an operator. Press B to eject coin. There's another one for the kids.
And that's why kind of like this one was in here, is because it's showing the processes of bringing terrain to life, but across two different disciplines. So doing it with existing terrain kits, but also doing it with the 3D printing side of things at the same time, and explaining, how to use the programs, the type of materials that we used, why certain decisions were made over other ones. And it's the kind of stuff that people could use as really nice touchstones for how they might want to then approach doing stuff similar to this. So if they wanted to dive and do some, terrain for Volsung or for a different game in the same kind of style, they could follow along with what they'd done here. So
I think the thing I adore most about this project is that it has been designed in such a way that if you already have Volsung terrain, this will instantly interlink and match with it.
Yeah.
Which is a really interesting consideration to do, because he could have just went off and made whatever terrain he wanted, what he imagined, but to take it to the level where it's like a bonus add-on to an existing thing, impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and just great.
And again, as far as spring cleaning goes, this was a project that began back in 2018. Some of the files had been started, and then it had been sort of shelved as an idea. So look at that. Even digital 3D printing type things can be sprung cleaned. I would have just
off those hard drives.
Defrag your hard drive. Lesson. Anyway,
well, I mean, I have to wonder, with all the updates that the programs get, how those files looked when he first brought them in after having left them sitting since back then.
I imagine bits would have probably fallen off or becoming the equivalent of digital dust.
Fallen into the recycle bin.
Our next honourable mention is Eon Trespass Odyssey, or Atto, by Lawner. Now, he's already a winner in many respects because he got a golden button, and that's worth more than money, isn't it, Lawner? So
pride. Peak pride.
This is a substantial amount of miniature painting to get the entire board game painted. So it can all be played with fully painted, done, dusted, which in and of itself is fascinating. The breakdown of how the game plays as well and the scenarios play out. There's a lot going on there. Everybody knows I like a good battle report. But it was interesting because you get a sort of an after action report of we played this scenario, here's how this went, here's how the game plays. You might want to think about taking these cards later or pushing this earlier. So
there's more of a tactical tutorial in this one.
Well, it's both. The gameplay is in there, so you get a whole idea of how the game plays and how it all comes together. But on top of that, there's also several pages worth of actual miniature painting and the tutorials that go with that as well. So if we get past some of the games, you'll start to see the completed miniatures, which are an unusual set of beasts and things.
Creepy ugly wigglies.
But as you can see, things like the flesh is broken down, feathers, tentacles, and this is done for all of the models. So it's like, I've painted this model, and you go, oh, that's really nice. How did he get that green effect on that swinging sack? And then you go off and you have a look, and it will tell you how the swinging sack green effect was done. And it's a tremendous amount of weird and wonderful Griblies with some unusual color choices and schemes. I say unusual, possibly usual for this, but if you think a lot of people are painting X, Y, or Z on a regular basis, you might not often need to do purple flesh, and then you suddenly get your hands on a new game or a new monster or something, and you're thinking, well, that's a bit out of my wheelhouse. So how would I go about doing that? The fact that there's so many disparate choices of colors and hues and I suppose even textures to a certain amount with feathers and metallics and skin and cloth, all of that in there. It means it's a really good touchstone to just come in and go, well, I like that. What did he use? Bish, bash, bosh.
I mean, for people who have picked up Aeon's Trespass and they want to paint up the set, it can be a daunting prospect. But having someone who, like Lorna, who has shown the process of doing that means a lot of people can be like, so this person has done this. I can just follow along and I can get a fully painted set, you know.
Yeah. Or look at it and go, oh, mama, that's a lot. Not for me. Thank you, but
well,
no.
or maybe that, yeah.
Also,
but either way, I think it's a really nice set and a really nice project, just absolutely packed with detail. And it's why it won a golden button in the end. So
Yeah.
Our last honourable mention for tutorial comes via the medium of Jamascat, I believe it's pronounced, and his Prussian army of 1813 to 1815.
Yeah.
So this was a substantial project that goes into not just putting a Prussian army together, but putting it together for a reason. So for this massive game that he ran at Partisan. So you also get a bit of a breakdown of the game, the scenario that was being played as well. But really, it's the sheer volume and research that went into doing the Prussians for one half the battle, of which there are, many.
See, this is my fear. This is the style of game I want to play for Napoleonics. But the idea of sitting down to paint that many figures is just like,
yeah, just do it. Just start.
Just do it. Just do it. It's just the easy way. Yeah. Just do it.
Not that hard. Just do it.
It's exactly the same as painting Space Marines. Instead of sitting down and paint 12 Space Marines, sit there and paint 12 guys in uniform.
Yeah.
Bingo bongo. You're through there in no time.
But as Jerry was saying, I think the thing that draws people in, drew us to this, it was the research element as well as it being a breakdown of, why things were painted a certain way. So there's lots of really nice cues in there for, again, people who want to follow along behind and be like, right, so I want to paint this particular army for this particular time period.
Yeah.
So how do I do that? Check out James Cutt's
So he's painting two guys caught in quicksand.
Well, as it shows there, he's replacing the standard shako with one with a larger, more Russian style
toilet brush,
pump to make the grenadier. So you get a bit of kit bashing as well, and so seeing the research behind it, he also does a very nice sort of little flyby. Things of the painted miniatures, but so you get the whole research in there for the Prussians and
from back in the day as well,
and going through all the bits and pieces that you need to do to put together a Prussian force. But equally, I mean, it shows a really good idea or techniques for painting massed armies like this. I mean, if you break out your airbrush, Justin, you could get through a lot of the rank and file infantry uniforms in very quick.
I don't airbrush.
You're a card stopper?
Yeah, I am. I accept my fate, John. Problem?
Yes, you don't paint anything.
But as you can see by what we're seeing here, like this is something that's it was started back in like 2021, and then they've come back and approached it in 2022, and then in 2023 as well, and sort of gone through the processes. And so having that interesting update between the three and sort of seeing where it went and stuff has been really cool. So. Yeah.
So always return, and eventually you'll finish a full army in a mere 3 years. Bish bash bosh, which is faster than any of my armies to date.
What Warren got around to finishing his undead, so it's everything's possible. So.
Right, but our first runner-up for the tutorials He's
Yeah,
Demon Sub.
is a little bit undead. So the runner-up is Demon Sub, who had got themselves the Garden of Moor, which is an old set of terrain that a lot of people will be familiar with if they ever played the old world, and it's one of their best ones they ever did. But Demon Sub basically went through the process of showing how to bring all of this terrain to life in different ways and doing all the different painting techniques, working through things like rust and stone and all the basing and everything else in between as well, and then dropping it into the games. So
unfortunately, desecrated gravesite there.
Might not be desecrated. Maybe that's how they want it to be preserved.
Let's be honest, that person got robbed.
I want an open air burial.
Yeah. So interesting bits and pieces in here, because again, it's one of these multifaceted tutorials. It's not just about the build, but at the end of it, he put together for a scenario. So this that we're seeing here is a little Rangers of Shadow Deep scenario, which he then put up on the Rangers of Shadow Deep face page grip, and then people have been downloading and playing this. So there's even a little bonus scenario what has been come up with himself, but it's just nice steady tutorial about putting together scatter terrain and basing up these, because things like graveyard packs, there are a load of companies that do them, and you think, right, well, what's the best way to deploy those, and just a few very basic things like back to back or multiple rows.
Yeah, but even
which allows
doing
you
like
to get the
larger square set on pieces.
Yeah, it lets you get them down, rank up a rake of paths within the graveyard, and still actually get the figures in there without having to worry about constantly knocking headstones over, which is generally what I do with my life. But beyond that, he also grabbed MDF TT combat type chapel and added it to the garden, but obviously it had to be modified, so skulls on standby.
Skulls, baby.
Which meant doing things like, that's the old Chaos Rhino.
The Chaos Rhino racks,
racks, things like that to add both spikes and skulls, which is very important. Hanging books off the doors, that sort of thing. So it's a nice example of how you can gentrify your church.
I mean, I love the idea that he's upgrading an MDF kit so that it actually has some of the 3D elements that we always feel and think are lacking a bit in some of them.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, because GW stuff is so busy. If you were just to put this down as a flat piece of work, it would stand out starkly by being so muted, flat, I suppose. Yeah. So just by spending some time and hooking through the bits box to find random bits of banners and bits and pieces, you can just go nuts. And then it means you can also then start dropping in other interesting things. So I'm fairly certain that's semantic.
Iron Maiden.
But then that is the Frostgrave resin objective piece. And they did, North Star did a set of 6 objective pieces for 2nd edition. So little set in bits and pieces like that. That's one of those creepy angel statues.
Yeah. Although no stained glass windows.
No, nobody wants that.
They've all been robbed out.
Yeah, it's just a really nice tutorial about completing a themed set of terrain for your tabletop, all the way through from the sort of scatter to the trees to the basing, putting it all together, and at the end you have an expansive set, because I mean that's the set on its Todd, I think. Yeah, that's the basic Garden of Moor, and then from that he's managed to plow enough into it to embigulate it to pretty much a 3x3, if not 4x4. So yeah, really nice little project from him. But there could be only one winner.
Can only be one.
Yes.
And this was a corker. So
Jerry was very much like, I think this one should win. This one should win.
Yeah.
I mean, am I seeing some shots from Weta Workshop, or is this their? Okay,
bit of both. So Holly has put together a Lake Time project that was started several years ago by the medium of Games Workshop's Lake Time
plastics.
Right? Yeah. But it was a case of, well, like the Garden of Moor there. It looks really nice. You don't get much.
It's boxy.
And then if you want to expand it, I don't even know if you can still get. Lake Town is one of those ones that appears and disappears occasionally from Games Workshop. So Holly decided, I want to make a full Lake Town. And the best way to do that is to start scratch building. So started with the GW plastics, then getting into the Belvita boxes. Which
how many Belvitas did you have to eat to complete this?
Well, thankfully, having small children on hand probably helped with that. But I like the fact that the roofs are almost done with the Belvita box. It's a really good idea. But also then picking up MDF kits as well. So the project itself builds Lake Town out, but also shows you detailing
adding
examples
additional
of
resin components.
Well, resin components to the GW stuff to get the although you can't get them, Grand Manor's no longer there. Resin components to the GW stuff, but also adding bits and pieces like these. These were really interesting, and I'd never thought of it. They're corner protectors that you put on a table or a bench so that things don't chip, but they make that
very nice little dormer windows.
Dormer window, yeah.
Nice conversion, attic conversion,
which is genius, and I will be stealing it. So you get this substantial amount of scratch building going through the various tools and bits and pieces that are used, which is always great. And then when you plow into the second page of it, gets into the actual painting. So you start to see how it all came together. And it's a really, really attractive set of buildings. Just goes to show the sort of standard that you can get to. So obviously we have the Lake Town houses themselves, but then alongside those you've also got this whole range of other buildings that have been put together very cheaply on a budget. It also shows for the investment of things like, say, the shingling there. She bought several sets of that from, I think, Warbases. Well, I know Warbases because I own several sets of them myself, but that shingling is really cheap. It's like an A4 sheet. So when you come to build things just out of cardboard and balsa, like we did in the old days before plastic was a thing, you can put the extra detail on very easily these days. You don't need to spend hours individually cutting scale shingles over and over again to do that. You can just get in there and flesh it out. Yeah, and the painting bits and pieces on there as well, even down to the mossy boats. It was a really nice touch. So again, you get the painting all sort of writ large there.
It really does show that something like those Lake Town houses, which were to me a mediocre kit when they first came out, with a better paint job, a more moody paint job from a skilled painter, really ups the game of it.
Yeah. I think one of the other cool things about both this and the runners-up, or the runner-up for this one, is it tackles something that a lot of people, and I've talked about this before as well, is that terrain always feels like it's something that a lot of wargamers don't tackle. And having tutorials like this for people to dive into is a really nice way to be like, it's not as hard as you think it is.
Terrain for a lot of us can feel just like a chore.
Yeah.
Like it does to me. Like I hate terrain.
You want to paint the toy soldiers. You don't want to paint the but as I say, having something like this just, I think, really kind of nails the idea that, don't be, give it a shot. It might
I'm questioning the choice of having got any of Lake Town at all, because clearly it wasn't needed.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it did give them a source.
Yeah.
I suppose it gives you the scale and the general style to stick to.
Yeah. There's just some terrific little bits and pieces in here, and also great insights into where you can go to pick things up. So if people didn't know that Warbases do these sheets, and by the way, they do like 6 different types of shingles as well, which is really handy. So not all your houses have to be tiled the same way, just saying. But yeah, so where to find the stuff and then how to apply it it's just terrific. And that I will be stealing that desk protector corner idea, just because the shape it's not a difficult shape to build, but anything that saves me having to build when I'm scratch building terrain
it also gives you something that will be accurate whenever you take the corners off.
Yeah.
Oh, well, when I build things, it's accurate anyway. Don't worry about that. I'm nothing if not anal in that regard.
The Leaning Tower of Jerry.
Yeah,
we've seen the rigging.
Never going near the rigging again. Anyways,
yeah, taking something like the TT combat stuff. But again, it's MDF. It's pretty plain Jane once it's all put together. Not bad, but upgrading it, very much so a yes.
Just adding the flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Just spicing it up with a bit of scratch building and a bit of all this really innovative, really creative sort of throw together stuff. Like, it's brilliant.
Things like that shows you just how much more you can. I mean, GW stuff's nice. It's 4 buildings.
Yeah.
But to be able to fill a full 6x4, by the medium of MDF and Belvita, and away you go. I just thought it was absolutely corking.
Definitely a congratulations on this one.
Superb work.
Yes, well done, Holly, and well done to our runner-up as well. Poor Demon Sub, so close yet so far. Again, free money, not money, available to you if you get in contact with us. Just go to the thingy thing where you have to do the drop-down bit and claim your prize thing, because you're all in there. If people are paying attention, you'll have seen it already. Okay, then. So our next one up then is for our best idea.
So best idea. It's not necessarily sort of showing the details of bringing something to life, or indeed even maybe finishing a project. In many cases, the best idea is the kind of light bulb moment that a lot of people have had and gone, this seems like something that would be really awesome for us to dive into. Let's see how it goes. And I think we've got a nice little section of awesome projects to dive into for this one as well.
Honestly, our previous winner, the Belvita buildings, that would have been up there for me.
Well, yes, that's true as well.
It's all about cereal boxes.
Yeah, that's true.
So the first of our honourable mentions is Necro Nerf. This comes from Sparks Will Fly, which I discovered yesterday. There's also a beer called Sparks Will Fly from the Mourne Brewery. It's great.
Oh, tasty.
Yeah. Hopefully he's named after the beer. But this was taking an MDF kit and upgrading it through the medium of additional Greeblies. Those Greeblies came in the form of various Nerf guns.
Who possibly met Mr. Sledgehammer?
Well, not all of them. Some of them have been completely disassembled, and other ones have remained mostly intact and upright, just glued to the side of things. But then also wire and styrene rod to make tubing and bits and pieces like that. But it was, as you can see there's a almost whole cloth Nerf gun as some sort of impressive tower. But yeah, it was
some form of foundry, maybe.
It was a really nice. Well, it's whatever you want it to be.
Oh, it met Mr. Hacksaw.
So it was to get away from the stark reality of MDF. Again, a lot of people seem to have been working on that principle, where it's like MDF buildings are great for filling up a table, but they're very repetitive and bland. What you need to do is add a bit of texture and curvature to your life, and in this case, it can be done by pulling a Nerf gun apart and putting the inside bits on the outside.
And finding all sorts of nuts and bolts and screws and just sticking them on.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's a great one there. Like the detail of I'm just going to add a load of screws to the top, just hot glued to the top, sitting upright to make little Tesla coily shaped things. They look like those things that children always used to die trying to get their frisbees out of whenever I was little.
And then those poor internal gubbins that fell out whenever he cut it in half.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just a really nice project of how you can add shape and texture through just kit bashing and breaking up toys. And it gives a whole industrialized look to the area. There's even a massive wall section that I think it's just there to sit at the edge of the board and just be a bookend to the table. But it just looks like something that would be there to keep the muties out from Cursed Earth.
Yeah, I mean, we the thing that we said when we looked at this as a golden button was that one of the integral points to this was that it adds height to it. It makes you feel like you're in a hive city, which is, however many kilometers high up into the sky, and you don't sometimes get that when you're looking at Necromunda stuff, but I think this gives things a really nice sense of scale and does it in a really inventive way, which is always good. So
I mean, the general twists and turns you'll see in most Nerf guns are very sci-fi to begin with, but when you add the extra gubbins, it really does make it look like machinery.
Yeah.
Which it really, really is impressive.
It has to pull off the incomprehensible mechanism look to it.
Yes.
What does this machine do?
Who knows what that does? Yeah.
It is a machine of some sort, but yes.
Why else would it have all these tubes if it didn't do things?
Yes. We think it keeps the toilets running.
Yes. Give it a dose of the old incense, and away you go. You're flying.
Oh, that's leaking. It's 200 degrees. Let's pour a little bit of holy wax on that. That'll hold.
Yeah. Next up was Sundancer, who had got a lot of the Battletech stuff when it first came out back in 2019. I then had mostly sat on it. And obviously with Battletech having just had a Kickstarter and the threat of more stuff coming, was probably a good idea to dig the 3/4-year-old stuff out of storage and start actually putting paintbrush to model and getting these things painted up. So there was a whole eclectic mix of painting. Obviously,
that's a little bit 2080.
It's very Judge Dredd coming at you.
Yeah,
100%. So I like things like that. The unusual choices. It wasn't just here's a specific company and then here's their pattern to go with or their uniform. It was, I'm going to paint this one up like Judge Dredd because Judge Dredd's class. And you can't argue with that. Well, you
Jerry will come around your house and fight you.
Yeah, well, you'll get a headbutt from Dredd. But yeah, again, there's also proper old school hexery as well, done by the medium of, I think, a Proxon hot wire cutter, allowing him to fill in some of the terrain on the tabletop with actual 3D elements. And, just again, really nice bits and pieces that you need to put together for your collection anyway. And the use of bendy straws is great because if they're here, they're not up a turtle's nose. So again,
very true.
I've seen that video. Oh,
that
poor turtle.
Good.
Poor turtle.
Is it? I haven't seen that video. I imagine it's terrific though, but I'm glad I haven't seen it. That's why all of my straws are made out of ivory. Anyway, so yeah. Post the before times,
Rainbow Mac
speed paints have entered Sonny's life. There's some sort of Voltron looking thing at the back as well, which meant he was able to sit down and just go, right, let's get some colors on the things, and I can get the colors on the things in relatively short order via the medium of these colored things, what I can just splash all over. So yeah, really nice example of somebody going, I've got a target, and the target is get these things painted and table worthy. Yeah.
He even has an ultramarine Mac.
No, again, why not? He looks like Fury. The old,
it's a Nova. No one cares.
It's the old double fisting dreadnought from back in Rogue Trader. But yeah, so really nice work from Honey. Yeah, just getting the stuff together and churning through the
slapping
workload.
Some paint on it. Yeah,
He's also previous Butt winner.
And so basically, the idea of just get it finished.
Yes,
even if it's all over the place, you don't need a uniform army.
No, especially if they're if you're just playing as mech companies and things like that, you can just everybody's a winner. There's Tony Stank in an Atlas.
Well, there's a Chicken Walker.
Yeah. Just, I assume is the equivalent of the Hulkbuster suit, but for Battletech. But yeah, so really nice seeing them all done, dusted, and nice that he gets a mention. He doesn't get anything else though.
Jared's done you dirty, Sundancer.
Well, sucks to be him. Our final honourable mention goes to Jordan, who, I mean, as far as spring cleaning things go, the Phoenix Army for Clan War is right up there. Now, I know he'd started spring cleaning this. I think in the first one of the entries, he initially went, it's so old, it's not even listed on the OTT website. Still, where I went and fixed that. I added the company and the game, so just so it could be there, because I wouldn't want them to think we weren't paying attention. I always pay attention.
Jerry is always watching.
But this is a case of I'm sitting on several hundred miniatures. I want to get these things painted up, and as time has gone on, he's been slowly chipping away at the metal mountain, and in response, getting whole units put together. And it's really nice seeing just these old figures as well.
Classic miniatures hitting the tabletop again. Yeah.
I mean, the sculpts have held up really well,
They have.
especially with a modern paint style on them.
Yeah.
There were some interesting ones. I had a set, and then no idea what happened to the set, and then I was lucky enough to get another set, which means I've now failed to paint 2 sets of these miniatures in the past 30 years.
I do love the little pebble dash stones that he's put on the bases.
Yeah, just the bigger rockery.
Yeah, just that little flash of white is interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, like I say, it's just being a joy watching the mountain slowly get chipped away and new units appear.
Yeah, even though as we scroll back, you'll notice on the titles, folks, we're counting down.
Yeah. Well, it's like doing a tour in NAM. Mm-hmm. You can't go 180 days to go. You've got to think 3 days in.
Yeah.
Gorgeous work.
Yeah, it's really nice.
It's been great watching them slowly appear. And then obviously when they're all there, we get a battle report. That's how it works. Those are the rules.
That's what Jerry's asking for. Yeah.
Right. We have a runner-up though. Enough of the honourable mentions. And this one I know you were very keen on, Ben, so I'll allow you to announce it because I'm good.
Yeah. So this one was one that I thought kind of epitomised the idea of a spring clean challenge once again. And it was just a fun idea as well anyway, for anyone who's thinking about looking to dive into some grimdark future wargaming. So this one came from Cute Goth, who I think is quite a new member of the site as well anyway, in terms of being a member and stuff. And they did very much what the Spring Clean Challenge is all about. They took a classic old army that they had sitting around and they went, what if I just completely went back and updated this? And so they started off with their old Tau army, realized what they had, was like, what can I play around with? And then just sort of went in, cleaning everything up, doing a little bit of repainting here and there, tinkering with things, updating things to match with the new version of the game and all that kind of stuff as well.
Went crazy with the ketchup with mustard.
Got the bottles out and started spraying, and then essentially just gave a new lease of life to an old Tau army, which I thought was really cool. And there's been some really nice results that have come out of it as well, which is nice to see.
Yeah. I really like the... Sorry, go ahead, John.
Sorry, I was just going to say it's very comic book looking.
Yes.
Yeah.
I liked it's just the solid colors just get on there.
That cell shading is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons it was so distinctive as well, because we, being human and knowing what camouflage is, whenever we start doing camouflage patterns and bits and bobs like that, we tend to do it even on sci-fi miniatures. I've even been accused of it on some fantasy stuff, and go, well, they shouldn't have camo, but I could do like a camo style thing on some dark elves. Whereas I love the fact that you just went, Tau, they're crazy, they're anime, they're bright, they're poppy. Here's what my camo is going to be. Yeah. My camo is going to be the red and yellow lines. Yeah. Theoretically, it still does what some sort of camo patination would do, and breaks up some lines.
I'm sure they have tech for that.
But yeah. But it was just really fun watching the Australian Tau come together as well. But more than that, we got a look at some of the original stuff as well, because I think there's a picture further back of a game she played against her husband in 2011 with her Tau, before getting involved in bringing them up to date. So there's a flashback to the old days, which is somewhere lurking below this. There's a whole bunch of ethereal-looking people. Can't trust the ethereals. Oh, I have him.
Watercast?
He was a limited edition one. I cut his little sticks off and replaced that with a katana and a sheath.
So less pacifist?
Oh, much less pacifist because I didn't collect Tau because Tau go moo moo moo. But I really like the look of that. Anyway, but it was it was really nice seeing not just that, but also things like some of the Forge World bits and pieces that were released,
Aircast,
including the massive flyer is lurking in this project as well.
Oh, Amanda.
Was the Manta the big one?
It's the three grand one.
The Manta is the big one, yeah.
I don't know if it's the biggest then. It may be the medium. It was like the size of a pizza. It's like,
they did exactly the same thing as I did, and they put their sniper on a square base. That's exactly what I did with my old Tau army back in the day.
The question is, the question is, here's an old callback for you, John. Did the drones get glued in?
I hope they did, because they're a pain in the ass otherwise.
Oh no, I remember an argument you and Lloyd had where you did that one and he was like, why'd you do it? I wanted them separate. She's like, because that's how you're meant to do it.
Yeah.
They all get glued in. But yeah, it was a really nice project. And I think a few days before the end of the Spring Clean Challenge, posted the last sort of update. It was like, well, I'm not going to get everything finished, but sort of invigorated by the whole affair, the idea was to push on and try and get it done and dusted before December this year. So, by the end of the year, I've repainted the whole army. So it was really nice seeing old Tau.
Inspirational stuff.
Yeah, brought back to life again.
Well done.
Goodbye, grey. Hello, black. So it's time to break out the big spray cans.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
That's the one. But as always, there can only be one winner.
Oh, yeah.
And this was a fascinating one. Fascinating for several reasons.
Yeah.
It was the second Spring Clean Challenge project they'd done. The first one they started failed. And then off the feedback from the failure, they decided to do something a little bit different, but using the properties that had come about. So Thursday's Child, full of grace, and also Rabbit. So
Thursday, and we talked about this when we did the golden button for them on an XLBS in the past, but the thing that just sold this for me as that kind of quintessential idea is, as you were saying there, Jerry, here's a technique that I used or was trying to use on a particular set of models, which didn't quite work. How can I re-implement that and turn it into something different? And so when Thursday set about doing these Blanchitsu style Eldar, I think the finish is great anyway, but it's just the fact that they were like, I'm going to be brave and do this. And I think that's something that a lot of people sometimes need to have a think about when it comes to, wargaming and hobby, is that, you can follow the box art. Sure, that's fine. And you can have things looking great. But sometimes just be experimental and have fun. Like, the whole point of the hobby is that you can make things your own. And I think Thursday really typified that with how they basically were like, what's really cool? John Blanch's artwork. How can I turn this into miniatures? Let's try and work out some techniques that do that. And I think it looks fantastic.
And I had started with, like I say, a failure, and they were trying to do up some Gene Stealers to look like Giger's Aliens.
The Giger ones,
the ones that he, the actual illustrations, not the movie version, which is all black and metallic, but the color palette that was using wood stain, which a lot of people know as Army Painter Dip. It's exactly the same thing. But it didn't work, and the properties of it, the fact that it's varnish, a polyurethane varnish that shrinks and all the rest, caused issues. So that project was shelved / abandoned. But then it was, well, actually, because of what that looked like, it has that ruddy reddish tones, and weird sort of streaking and the like that you would see in Blanche's. I've thrown a cup of coffee at some watercolors I've been working on, style of painting. And so use the fact that the technique that hadn't worked for the aliens could be used to make a very distinctive color paletted and painted army. So as you can see, some of Blanche's bits and pieces. Look, he's fame. By the way, we didn't just go for golden button winners. It just happens that several of these people have.
Some of them also had gold buttons,
But yeah, the idea of going, well, I can use the properties of the wood stain, and then now I know the fact that it's because it is a high gloss varnish, to get other colors and the like on it, you need to have some sort of matte back on top. So working with the material rather than fighting against it meant you could go in and do this unusual and very distinctive looking set of miniatures and colors and patterns. And it was just interesting to see from the ashes of defeat rises the phoenix of victory. How about that?
Exactly.
That sounds good. Or the phoenix lords of victory.
See what you did there.
Little Eldar joke there for the kids in the audience.
Bring me Baharath and some new swooping hawks. God damn you, Game Show.
But they're so busy with their new epic, not epic.
Stop that and give me swooping hawks.
But yeah, so it was really nice to see a collection, and like a lot of people, you often go with the sort of the studio paint scheme, or in these modern days where armies are list built so intrinsically, you'll go, well, this is the filthiest type of Eldar to go. So I'll paint them in X, Y, or Z. Whereas just going back and going, you know what, I want to have a whole army themed like John Blanche's artwork. I'd like to have a whole army themed like Mike McVeigh's paint jobs, but we can't have everything. But yeah, I really like what Thursday did, and the overall look is
a great
distinctive.
Idea. There we go. Yeah.
It has an almost woody feel to it. And things like that are just corking, just so different, so experimental, so freeform, so jazz.
Yeah,
good
a well-deserving winner.
I feel like I'm sitting in the Tate Modern.
Yep. Right, we have a couple of other categories, and smaller, compact and bijou, as Mostyn would say. So the first of our categories only had one entry, which means congratulations if you entered in this category, you're a winner. And this was the junior member, or OtterPop, as I like to think of them.
I remember the first time you said that, everyone was just like, no, don't call them otters, and then it stuck.
Of course it stuck.
Of course it did.
Because we're OTT, so we're otters. The best people's faces were Warren and Lloyd. Whenever they went on tabletop now, nobody can come up with a nickname. And I went, otters.
And they were like, no!
And now it's the picture at the top of our Discord. So
I win. Anyway, our winner for best junior member then is Starlight 7757, who has been ramping around the place with mum and dad and brother, doing a whole host of things. So the continuing mission is to paint a high elf army for Warhammer, which is, obviously the correct thing to do, because bolt thrower's 50 points, 6 shots, hitting on 3s. Oh my god! Anyway, but apart from the filth that is high elves and their high magic, oh god, the project also contains bits and pieces like Trip to Salute, where she got to do a couple of different paint and take away things, play some games, played a game of Legion, won. Suffered a Lloyd-like visit to a railway museum with her brother, but discovered that they also sold tiny fighting buildings, which meant then when she got home, she could do a bit of modelling and painting and not have to suffer the choo-choo puffs again. Yeah, Revel's acrylic range.
The acrylic,
yeah.
Never tried them.
Don't.
Paints that belonged to Granddad. I couldn't open them, so Dad had to do so.
Yeah.
Oh. Generational painting, you have to love it.
Yeah. And also, painting things like High Elf Lord on Griffin.
Back of the Griffin, yeah.
And they have a Tamagotchi.
Okay, sure.
Of course they do. Yeah.
That's one thing to keep you going. But yeah, it's just great to see younger people getting involved and splatting some paint down. And in years
just
to
having
come,
a bit of fun. Yeah.
In years to come, I imagine some of these will then end up a sprinkling challenge where it'd be like, I painted this High Elf Lord
and I won
before the old world came about, and now years later I'm playing the old world, and I think you could do with a bit of a refresh and dust up because I've got better at painting. It's all cyclical, and that's the great thing. Also, that he was in the starter set, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Isle of Blood.
one of the last ones, wasn't it?
Yeah. In fact, possibly the last one.
I think it was literally the last
shot
one.
in the face.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see classic models out there. Yeah. Also got Ariel the Everqueen on her guard for Christmas, so there'll be some filthy wells. And
got a lovely £75 voucher to spend on more stuff. So.
Yeah, congratulations, youngling.
Yeah,
it means you can get some paints that you don't need to get your dad to open.
Some paints that work.
I mean, theoretically, they must work because otherwise we wouldn't have things like this building.
True.
They've got stuff on them. So yeah, congratulations, Starlight, our junior member winner.
Well done. Mm-hmm.
And our final category was one that Warren threw in while I wasn't about.
As he is wont to do.
Yeah. So what was Warren up to then with the breath of fresh air?
Cool. So one of the things that Warren mentioned was that, we all do a lot of hobby. We all sit inside and we do a lot of work, sort of sitting at our painting desks, working away on things. But, it would be remiss of us not to enjoy a little bit of the outside world once in a while. I know this sounds like heresy. But so he was putting together a fun little sort of extra category that people have dived into and had a go at, where you were able to take some of your finished work that you've been putting together, head out into the outside world, beyond the bunker doors, and take some pictures of your miniatures out in the great wide world, maybe on tour, maybe in the back garden, or maybe somewhere in between. And so we had a couple of fun little projects that actually attempted this, which was good.
Well, yeah, and none of them is Lloyd.
So, I'm surprised Lloyd's not in this after the Balearic excursion.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm surprised nobody got arrested, because knowing our community, you were going to put it somewhere inappropriate.
I don't think so. I think you have a very dim view of our community. Look at them. They're wonderful people. Just look at them. Look at their faces.
I'm going to give Shay an idea for next year's. And he's going to do it because it's going to be hilarious and dangerous.
Right. Well, in that case, watch the space. Tune back in this time next year. But for now, we'll finish off with the honourable mentions and our winners for the breath of fresh air. And our honourable mention is not the usual one. This is Dow G.
Why the gnome?
Because he decided he wanted to paint a garden gnome using model style painting rather than just slap, high gloss enamel super protective thing.
Okay, so we're going off beat from the get go.
So he took outside inside to put back outside.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's like the one.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, this kind of makes sense because my mum has asked me a couple of times to paint garden ornaments for her.
There you go. So
No, nobody said it had to be a 28mm model.
That's true.
It could have been 6mm. Could have been 2mm. God's own scale. Or it could have been a 54, or in this case,
that's creepy.
A 1-to-1 scale. 1-to-1 scale garden gnome.
It's even more creepy.
I really like it. I like breaking out the craft paints and just tackling something like this the same way you would paint a miniature. That in and of itself was hilarious anyway.
It was great. Yeah. But yeah, it might just in there because it's funny to see someone painting a garden gnome. So
definitely a clever one.
Image.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want, honestly, because we will have to do a spring clean challenge cover. So
yeah.
And we can't use a winner.
That's true. Yeah.
Give away the game.
Well, nobody would know until they watch the thing. That's how it goes.
But
right. Our first runner-up, though, was Draconis.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to start with this.
Yes.
So look, there they are in the inside. So Draconis's painting project anyway is not just about going into the outdoors. It's a collection of bits and pieces that they've been working on. However, about midway through, the witches appeared from Pratchett.
They did.
Which was great to see them in and of themselves. And then, since he was out and about, there they are, I think, on the roof rack.
I think so, yeah.
I mean, he could have put it on as a hood ornament.
Hope there's some strong magnets. But they also got a chance to visit some areas within England as part of the
National Heritage Sites.
It's always good. Well, obviously they're just up, as everybody knows, keeping an eye on the Watchers in case the lords and ladies are coming through those stone rings. Got to go up every now and again, make sure that there's no formation of crop circles within the rings.
Yeah.
That would be terrible. That would just be the worst. But there's a few of them kicking around in different places, visiting Conisborough Castle as well, where they look like they're having a rare old time.
Castle. Mm-hmm.
Nanny Og is certainly enjoying herself. She's almost fallen off her broomstick. It's quality stuff.
But it basically it fit the brief. It was taking miniatures out into the great outdoors and getting lovely photos of them and enjoying yourself when you're out there and learning a little bit at the same time, which is good.
Yep.
So
while your other half looks at you as if you've gone slightly mad.
Maybe, yeah.
I'm sure that's probably what Anna did to Lloyd.
Oh, I think that's the case generally, I think, yeah. So
look, they even got a chance to look at some tiny fighting men of their own. Which is always good.
You are tiny fighting witches. These are tinier fighting men.
So that was Draconis.
Well done.
Admirable runner-up. We had an absolute corker of a winner. And this one, I think not only fit the brief, but also the feeling behind it. Because I get the impression from Warren that there was an amount of self-care.
Yes.
In the, everybody's been stuck inside, get outside once in a while type of thing. So Senjin Makoto, possibly, had been ruminating on things. So it actually starts with the idea of entering a painting competition. And then there's as it says there, somewhat shy and the self-imposed community isolation, wanted to sort of reach out and do something. So he entered a painting competition as local place. So you get a bit of a tutorial as well. Again, very much in keeping with Spring Clean Challenge. Entered it, sat back, waited, didn't win. And then the sort of the self-doubt and this self-analyzation and criticism sort of started to creep in. So he decided to take the miniature, go for a walk, and do the actual breath of fresh air part, just get his head showered. And this, I think, is just epitomizes what Warren was after.
Yeah.
The idea that sometimes you need to just get out of yourself, as my mother would say. Just take a stroll, see nature, get in touch with your local squirrels. Squirrel.
That's essentially why I said it. No,
that's what
a little squirrel now.
I'm not saying you definitely want it for that, but yeah, it was nice, and also the text that goes with it is very informative. And the idea of how they perceive themselves, how they feel themselves, and then sort of taking the steps to get outside and to reconnect and stop dwelling on negative things, just enjoy yourself and enjoy the world around you. And I think that's key, because at the end of the day, it is a hobby. You don't want to spend too much time ruminating on, what could I have done better painting wise? Why is that army list not as good? Why did I lose that gear? Why are my dice rolls always terrible? Blah, 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 blah. It's a game. It's a hobby. Enjoy yourself. And if you find negative thoughts sort of dwelling too often, put everything aside, go for a walk, get out, find a squirrel, feed a squirrel. So yeah, I thought it was a really interesting little project from Senja Makoto.
Maybe more people will take the example of Senji and do something similar with their own hobby and stuff as well. So
there was also this, which I hadn't heard of before. I imagine it's American. But in November, there's a charity called Extra Life, which has been running for a while now. And it's gamers raising money for charity. Started with video games, but board games and miniature games have got involved as well. And as of 2021, they raised over $100 million for various children's hospitals. So the 15th anniversary is this year. I have put a little note in a calendar somewhere, see if we'll mention that when it comes closer to the time. But I do like that little sort of addendum that they've thrown in as well to sort of pay it forward, as the man says. Yeah. So, congratulations to Senji Makoto. Please have shorter names, easier to pronounce next time. Starlight, Thursday, everyone we've mentioned, all of you, Holly, the whole 9 yards. The ones who didn't win cash money prizes, not cash money, not guarantee. Congratulations as well. Like I say, criminally hard to pick.
So many to choose from.
So many.
And now let the melee begin.
We'll throw meat in there and you can all feast upon it. We shall take a break. And when we come back, we'll be rounding out the show with a couple of Kickstarters.
Did you win one of our prizes? Find out on our prize claim center over at OnTableTop.com. Here we list all our previous prizes and those who have won. If you see your username, fill out the form to claim your prize. All prizes must be claimed within 30 days.
Okay, we are back to round out the show. And we have a couple of Kickstarters. And the first one, it's just as well. We had a look at the Wiki Wawa earlier in our indie, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. So the first one of these comes from Devilfly Games, which is a pretty new company who have hit up Kickstarter with their new game. They are friends with one of your favorite people in the world, Jerry. Tom from Moonstone, from Goblin King Games. They love him. So, but they have bought a game.
Multi-award-winning Moonstone. Thank you very much.
That's true. Yes, multi-award-winning. But this is their new game, which is titled very funnily. So this is Undermined Paradise City.
Get it. I see what they've done there.
That's amazing.
Paradise.
Yeah, that's very cool. So this is a fun, quick card and dice game where you play as gold miners who are trying to push their luck. You will begin the game with a bunch of sort of basic equipment. So you have your pick, your helmet, maybe a canary if you're lucky, and you'll be diving into what's called the rock deck, where you'll be trying to mine through different layers of the mountains around you in order to get as many different trinkets and treasures and stuff as you can possibly do so. The main premise of the game is very simple. When it's your turn, you'll be having a crack at the rock deck, pun intended, where you'll have all of your different equipment that'll give you bonuses to your roll, and then you will roll a pair of dice. You see what they did there? And you'll be trying to beat the number on the rock deck in order to get through it and turn it over and see what's on the other side. Now, there are obviously going to be cards in the rock deck which are way harder for you to crack than normal. When you come up against those, you'll be trying to sort of make deals with the rest of the people at the table. So you'll be like, if you help me out when we get through this, I'll give you some of the treasure that I've found, or maybe I'll give you some of my equipment and all that kind of thing.
If your claim, are you mad, man?
I know, who would do such a thing?
Keep digging at it yourself. You're going to hit pay dirt any time.
Oh, man. It just reminds me of the old TV show Gold Rush.
But, yeah.
God damn you, Todd Hoffman.
Yeah. But there's also opportunities for you to kind of push your luck, which I really like, where you can use dynamite, and dynamite allows you to blow through different values of cards. So say, for example, you had 20 powers worth of dynamite and the cards in front of you were a 6, a 4 and another 6. That means at least you're getting through those first 3, and then once you blast through your limit, you have to stop there and that kind of thing. But the more cards you turn over, the more chance that you're going to run up against deadly incidents that'll happen. So you might have floods, you might have cave-ins and everything else in between, and if that happens to you, you're going to have to hope that your safety equipment is going to be there to try and save you from all of those different things. The other thing as well is obviously you might get friends to help you, but obviously you then run the risk of maybe, unearthing something terrible down there. So they may have helped you out, but they've got to make sure that they've got something pretty good out of it, because they're going to have a rock on their head at the same time, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, that, and, they might just claim jump you.
Well, that's true as well, yeah.
John's planning.
The main focus of the game is you're going to be trying to get to 12 victory points. Once you get to that, you are the winner. And because of the nature of the game and the way that the rock deck is set up and the way that the market works as well, there's loads of replay value baked into this. As I say, the core principle of it is very simple, and the mechanics are kind of easy to get your head around after like maybe 1 or 2 goes. I've actually had like the sort of test press copy of that, and it's been really fun sort of diving into it and having fun with it and seeing how it changes between games and the kind of, deals that you can make that never seem to go in my favor, but there we go. But then obviously you'll be spending money to buy different pieces of kit and that kind of thing as well to try and help you through each of your different encounters with Undermined. Seems like a really fun concept. I've had a lot of fun playing it. So I'll lay that bare already. I have already had a pop at this and see what it's like. So take of that what you will. But yeah, it seems like a great one for you to crack out if you're going to conventions, or if you're looking for a game to play maybe between a couple of big sessions of something like Gloomhaven or whatever. The other thing that's nice about it is obviously because you've got the replay value baked into it, maybe you play 2 or 3 games of a night and you sort of add up all your scores together, and so obviously someone's going to get 12 because that's how the game ends, but you can sort of add everything together and see who gets the most out of those 3 games that you've played as well, which is kind of nice. And yeah, as well as the core game, they've got a whole bunch of other bits and pieces. So you've got player mats, you've got dice trays, and everything else in between. The art for the game is also great, and it really reinforces that kind of push your luck, prospector, a little bit kooky, quirky thing going on as well. So you've got a bored canary in a cage and sort of loads of quirky pieces of artwork that represent the different people that are, going to be out in these prospector towns and that kind of stuff as well. So it's got a really nice vibe to it as well, which is always nice to see. And I definitely recommend giving this one a look, I think. So yeah, very cool.
It looks like a lot of fun, especially for that sort of social style game where a lot of people around the table who know each other and can have a bit of banter back and forth, which can always be fun. Because, like you say, you can bring it to conventions and things like that. They tend to turn out to be very different games than ones you play with your friends. Yeah. Because you'll get people, because they don't know anybody else, people will be more cutthroat, I find, at those. Although knowing some of my friends,
I don't have to go home with you.
Particularly difficult.
I mean, I'm just going to say it now, Jerry. Have you played with Shay?
Yeah. But it's nothing. I mean, the amount of times me and Shay have gone, we'll not touch each other and we'll just hammer you. Whereas when you're at con, we're just always hammering everybody around you, just lash in all directions. But yeah, it's a nice low bind. It's really nice mixture of puns to go with the artwork as well throughout that, which I'm a sucker for anyway. Just of course, a lot of punnage.
Not gonna lie, it is very tempting.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one that'll sort of pop into a lot of people's collections and get played quite a bit and stuff at game nights and things. And as I say, just looks a lot of fun. Yeah, from a first-time-ish company as well, which is always nice to see over on Kickstarter. So
already funded, but you've got to be quick if you want to strike gold. There's only 4 days left.
4 days.
Peterson until the end of season.
All right. Up next, then, we have Open Sesame Games Cyclades.
Yeah, so Cyclades, I never know how to say it. But this is the legendary edition of the hit game. So this was the game that was created by Bruno Cathala and Ludovic Malblanc. And this is Open Sesame Games bringing this back to the tabletop for people to experience once again with like a whole new vibe and style to it. So for anyone who's played the previous games, the core premise is still the same. It's still kind of like an area control domination style game where you'll be moving armies and monsters and all sorts of things and around the tabletop. There's also like the same auction style mechanics in there for bidding for the powers of the different gods from ancient Greece as well. And the sort of core premise is still you're trying to control 3 of these metropolises on the tabletop, and you can do that through various different means. You can do that militarily, you can do that through the arts and everything else in between as well. But the core focus of this is kind of getting the powers of the gods on your side. So for anyone who's not played Cyclades before, every turn you will bid to see which god you gain the power of when you sit down to play. So you might get Ares, who allows you to bring more units to the table. You might get Hera, who reinforces them. You might get like Zeus and Athena, who are sort of more focused on the kind of religious aspect and the philosophical angle of things.
Yeah, there we go.
And each of them will give you, and this is new for the game, a mandatory building that'll be added into your collection, as well as a power that sort of automatically activates as well. So it really pushes the game to sort of up the tempo compared to the original version as well, which is really nice. There are a couple of different different play modes for you to dive into as well. So there's classic mode, which is 3 to 5 players, which is your sort of standard game of Cyclades. And then you've got team play, which is between 4 and 6 players, which allows you to split up between into teams and sort of fight. There's a improved 2-player mode as well. So you could just play this with just 2 folks at the tabletop if you want to. The other thing that's really nice, and you saw it in the video as well there, is that they've added in the modular map. So previously the game was had a very static board, so you could kind of try and do the same thing every time you sit down to play.
Yeah.
Because this time around you set up the board and you have the modular nature to it, you can fashion the board in different ways to try and give you certain advantages and things, which is really nice. So it means that you're going to have lots of different tests that you'll need to sort of attempt when you dive into play the game. So they've really basically taken the core concepts of Cyclades and gone, right, we're going to make this quicker and easier and more fun to play than it ever was before, which is always nice to see. The original artist is back as well, Miguel Coimbra. So he's come back and sort of updated everything as well. There's also options when it comes to pledges. So you don't have to go for either all meeples and tokens or all miniatures and that kind of thing. You can choose between, so there's no sort of like hard and fast one. So you can dive in and just get loads of amazing miniatures to represent all of your different troops, or you can go, I like meeples, just I like wood. Yes.
You don't have to do anything. They're already there. Nice and compact.
I prefer not to have to paint mountains of things.
Yeah.
Well,
but obviously
they're coloured.
You do have coloured plastics, which is always handy for diving in and stuff as well. But it basically just feels like they've gone in and gone, right, here are the things that people liked and didn't like about Cyclades when we sit down to play the game. What can we do to make it the most epic gaming experience for those people who love this and want to play more of it? It seems like that they've done a really good job and definitely gone to town on trying to make that a possibility, which is really nice.
The gaming tile shapes are very odd.
I like it. I like it. I like it the way you don't have to just have hexes or squares. You can be a bit quirky and puzzly as well.
Yes.
Nice. Yeah. So
that's what you want when you've got a smashed up archipelago. So sort of reaching out into the sea. You don't have to worry too much about things being uniform.
Oh no, Zeus, not again.
I do like that.
What have you done when you turn into a bull on Saturday? Jesus.
No.
Now you're a swan. Oh, dearie me.
Stop it, Zeus. Half of these Greek tragedies are your fault.
Yes.
The macro tiles, then, are there specific scenarios? Do you know where
I'm not quite sure.
Like this, or is it just a random?
I think there are particular setups that you can play. Okay. So it's been designed so that you can sort of like, so this one is, this one gives this.
Here's
effect
a sort of a standard one for a 3-player or a 2-player, because I see they've improved the 2-player game as well. Which when you're playing something like this, 2-player always it generally suffers because they expect you to be playing with multiple people. And the fact they've gone back in and tweaked the 2-player shows that they've been listening to feedback, because I know the myriad of people over the years have attempted to shoehorn 2-player games or versions of games in, and they never really recreate the feeling you get when you're playing the full game with a lot of people around the table, because you're expecting to have the back and forth, whether it's the auctions or military campaigns or whatever it happens to be, and you miss out on that. So it'd be interesting to see how that's been added.
Yeah, I think one of the things that was really key to the way that they changed things up was the bidding portion and the way that the gods worked, because you now have the mandatory something that happens for what you've put into it. So because you've bid for Poseidon, you get a port, you get the ability to have fleets and ships and that kind of thing. So I think that really pushes people to be like, oh, I've done this, but I haven't got enough resources to actually do what I wanted to do. You do something, you are definitively getting a reward for it. So it means it's going to push people in the right direction. It means that you can get more gameplay out of situations rather than people feeling stuck and things like that, which is always nice.
Well, there's an old favorite of mine, metal coinage.
Oh yes, Midas's touch.
Now I'm thinking, if you don't do enough to keep the gods' favor, can the gods then sod off to be bargained or bartered for?
Well, one of the nice things, I don't think you can, people might correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't stick with the same god every time.
Right. So it is, yeah.
So if you Yeah, so if you went Ares one turn, if somebody bids for Ares, they kind of push you out of that, so you get the chance to play around with Ares, which I think is quite nice. So there's no kind of like locking out, which feels kind of good. So yeah.
Oh, cool.
But obviously, it'd be very interesting to see what people do with this. You know, a lot of people like big games like Blood Rage and that kind of thing as well. So this one seems like it'll be right up their alley. So.
That there's a lot going on with the miniature side. I think, to be brutally honest, the only miniatures I would want are the upgraded building tokens. Maples for everything else, and then the upgraded building tokens.
So you can see things at a glance on the tabletop.
Yeah. Was that like a little modular fortified city we were seeing earlier?
It wasn't. It's just a little set on tokens.
Okay.
So. So to replace the temples and ports and bits and bobs.
They do have all of those really nice monster miniatures as well, which look very cool.
I'm still not there. Look, there's Tamer of Horses. Poor old Hector. Where's Paris? It's all his fault.
Well, there's Helen.
At least he has the decency to not be there.
Yeah.
But you've got the mighty Jason, which is always good. So, yeah.
A few Let's Play videos as well, which is handy if people want to see how it plays if they're unaware of the original version.
And the rulebook's downloadable as well. So if you want to go and check that out and see if I was right, you can do.
Let us know. Let us know in the comments, which we 100% will read. Honestly, we will.
You pinky swearing?
Yeah. 100%. I don't know what idea what that is. That sounds very American.
I'm pinky swearing, but I'm also crossing my fingers.
So
it sounds like something Bart Simpson would do.
Yes.
Right. 32 days left for the legendary edition of Cyclades, or however you want to pronounce that. That's the best you're getting out of me, though. And it's already massively funded. So,
yes,
you know you're onto a winner. If people are returning for a reprint in vast numbers already, then you know it can only be good. So give it a blatter. Get the rulebook. Have some Let's Plays. Watch. Break out a few beers. Enjoy yourself. I allow you. It's my gift to you. Right. I think I've had enough of this nonsense for another week. We shall return on Sunday morning, though, for something a little more sedate, a little more calm, because Warren's off on holidays. Yay! If you want to join us over on tabletop.com for the Cult of Games XLBS, you can do that on Sunday morning. We'll be kicking around for about 5, which is an outrageous time. Thankfully, I'll be up with the squirrels. Otherwise, we'll be back again next Friday for more of the same. Until then, have a great week of gaming. Bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.